Hello, Tim here. Welcome to Shop Talk with Tim. I have 10 hammers that I use fairly regularly in my woodworking. And if you get into all kinds of specialty hammers, like for blacksmithing or maybe leather work or jewelry work, or there's all kinds of different hammers for all kinds of things. And so some hammers I have misused in the past, not knowing what purpose they served. And I'm going to go through the list of the assortment of hammers I have here, why I have them and what I use them for. And some of them you just never, some are pretty universal, pretty diverse, some are very specific. So I'm going to start with the smallest ones that I have, and this is a Tack hammer. And it's probably my newest one that I purchased a while ago, but one thing that's interesting about Tack hammer, why it's got a square head like this, is primarily for upholstery work, and it could get the head of the nail right up into the corner where it meets another piece of wood or something like that. But this other side that's got the slot there, it's magnetized. The magnet is you start it and then you finish, turn it over and pound it in. So I remember seeing my dad put a bunch of tacks in his mouth and just go like that and then turn around, pound it in. And I don't recommend that, and there's pneumatic nailers that do a much better job, safer. But that's a Tack hammer, and it's only for small stuff. Now here's a small little brad, which it's like 1/2 inch long. That would work too, but because it doesn't have a very big head, it might be harder to use the magnetic side on it. So with the small brads, like if you're making a small box, I would use a small claw hammer so you could start your nail. Now this is a little short, but if you didn't want it in that position, you could maybe use a pliers, but that's what the claw is for, to pull the nail back out. This is a Warrington hammer, which is British, and that allows you to kind of use, like for finishing nail, you can kind of hold it and get it started and then turn it over. So this one I use quite a bit. This is your basic cabinet makers. It's more English than American use, but the Warrington hammer has another purpose besides just general pounding of nails in, and that's, I've used this edge, this backside, I've polished it up, and if I'm going to repair some glue or some veneer I'm gluing down, I can use this to press it out like that. So sometimes I've used it where I'm trying to get some molding back in place or something like that, but that's what that's for, not always just to pound. This is your general all-around hammer you'd hang pictures with and so forth, and a claw hammer, and this is just a bigger version of the same thing. Now the difference between these two hammers and all the other ones on the bench, except for this one, which I'll get to later, is that these are adze hammers. An adze means like an adze, which is another tool that has a shank. The handle goes all the way through the head like this. It's wedged in. But this part of the hammer head that comes down is called an adze, and that gives the handle more strength to pry with. And when you got a stubborn nail and you're trying to get it out, this has got a longer swing on it, and you can pull it a longer ways. So that's adze hammer, and they're pretty common. A ball peen hammer, on the other hand, I have 2 of them. I have more than that, but these 2 I use quite a bit. And my grandson really likes this one because it's small. but I put a short handle on it for a particular reason, in that when I'm doing a little thing, I'm not necessarily going to have to pull a nail out, but if I need to just hang a picture or something like that, I can put it in my pocket real easy. So it's a short handle for that reason. Just kind of put it in my pocket. I don't have to worry about it catching on something and ripping a hole in my pocket or anything like that. But the ball peen hammer is more of a metalworking hammer. This is the peen part of it, is to round over a rivet. So you punch a rivet through and you can peen it over, and then it stays fixed. Now, I don't have an example of a rivet like that. I don't use this too much, except that it does come in handy in fixing a dent in a wall. Let's say you're pulling a nail out, or you got a little divot in the wall, and I can kind of push this into the surface of the wall and or pound it in. Just it's what I did when I worked in maintenance. Punch it in, and then you got a little divot in there, and then you can fill that with spackle compound. So you can just it creates a little crater that you can put the spackle in. So I use that for that. Now this one, I polished the face. I don't use this for pounding nails or pounding anything else. This I did for one particular purpose, and that was to create texture on wood. This may not be that visible here, but it's all dimpled. And I've done this on a number of woodworking projects where I'm trying to create the illusion of like hammered copper look on wood. And I've done this on a number of bowls where I take and create the hammer tracks. This is a time I want to have a hammer track, and not by accident with one of these where I'm trying to protect the trim or something. But so it's particularly good on the end grain like that, because it'll dimple it in nicely. But that's, and some woods will start to shred a little bit when I do this, but that's why I use this for more of a texturing tool. But also, if you were to hammer copper or something like that, you'd polish the anvil that you're working on, or the mandrel, and then both sides you wouldn't have creases in your metalwork. So that's the only reason I use this. I have other bigger ball peen hammers for metalworking, but that's the reason I polished that one. Now here's the most interesting hammer that I have, I think anyway. This is a Veneer hammer, and this is not used for pounding, but like my Warrington hammer, this is a bigger surface for hammer veneering a piece of wood. Now I just kind of imagine this is a piece of veneer, or this is the wood and this is the veneer. And there's a technique in veneering where you got the glue, you're squeezing the glue out, and then it cures. Like this is particularly useful when you're doing hot glue with high glue, and maybe you can tap a little bit on this, maybe get something in position, but it isn't so much used for that. This is strictly for hammer veneering. A tool that I don't use that often, but I've used it recently. This is a general purpose ripping hammer. So this one is taking a lot of abuse. This is East Wing. It's a good brand, but there's so many variations of these that framing carpenters use. This happens to be, I think, a 16-ounce one, maybe 20. Anything heavier than that takes a lot of muscle if you're going to use it all day long. But this is for rough work, and when you're yanking a wall apart, you need something to kind of jack a wall or part, and pull something apart. It's a ripping hammer too, so it's like this is your all around, not for finishing work, but this is for framing. And I don't use it that often because I don't do framing work, but this comes in really handy on a job site when I'm lending a hand and we're doing framing work, and it kind of, you can use it as a persuader to bump something into position like a stud or something like that. And some of these framing hammers have what they call waffle face on it, you know, grooves on it that if you were to miss your mark and you hit the wood, it's going to leave like a waffle-like looking hammer track. I don't really like the hammer track, the waffle face, because of that reason, but also it's designed so it doesn't slip off the nail head as you're pounding it, toe-nailing something in. But I carry this with me on a job site. It's just a little too big to fit in your pocket or anything like that, so you hang it on the side. But it's one of the heavier hammers. Now, this is a specialty hammer. This is a bronze hammer or brass. I don't know which. And the only reason I use this quite a bit, but this is in some environments they have to use this because it doesn't spark. If you glance off a nail, especially a hardened nail, you can get a spark. This won't spark, but also it won't mushroom out especially when I'm pounding metal. Like if I'm going to mount this on the lathe and I wanted to have my spur, my drive bit, bite into the wood, I'll use this. And it's got a hole in it here, but you can see it punched it in enough so it'll bite into the wood. Using a metal hammer like that would cause this to all mushroom over, and it would not be good. So instead this will take kind of the mushroom effect, but you can see I've had it for a number of years. It's starting to kind of flatten out here a little bit, but it's still pretty good. It packs a wallop. One thing that really packs a wallop, and this one I actually use quite a bit. I don't have a big sledgehammer, but I do have this one. I use sometimes when I'm punching my maker's mark in a piece of wood or something like that, or stamping something. I don't want to use a small hammer and tap several times. I just want one punch and boom, it's there. And I don't have to swing it too hard. But I use this an awful lot with splitting wedges. So because I work with green timber, I get a lot of logs that need to be split, and so I can turn them, put them on the lathe. So this is my go-to tool that I use quite a bit. And if I was going to choose just one hammer that I would need for general purpose, I would just choose maybe a hammer that's maybe between these two. If you're just going to have one, if you're going to have two, I'd have a ball peen hammer and a claw hammer. Otherwise, I want all of them and then some. So that's what my hammers are for. Hope you find it interesting. Just remember to keep your other hand out of the way as you're holding the nail, so you don't smack it with a hammer and get a purple thumb out of it. Thanks for watching, and please give it a thumbs up if you would, and please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.